make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
And we welcome you into yet another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. Remote today as we are getting ready for the Rose Bowl on Monday. And dear Goon, I trust it was a Merry Christmas for you and yours.
Yes, absolutely. It was fantastic. I don't know how bad it was down there, but I may have been the coolest I've ever been in my life. We had all last weekend. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. At one point, I guess all the dogs just got home, so we were minus 31 real field temperature. Minus 31. And
that's brutal.
I was going to take my car to go down the road or whatever. They said it wouldn't start. Guys, the car wouldn't start because it was frozen. I swear to God. My car had to be. I had to jump it. I have 3,200 miles on that car, and the battery was frozen. So had to heat that baby up, and then we were good to go. But my God, it was cold.
Yeah, I guess it speaks to how good of a life I'm leading when the biggest problem I had was that we were trying to get drive-through food and I couldn't get the window down. So I had to open up the door. It's like, oh, this is cold.
Hey, how was New Orleans?
Very nice. It was not a complaint. I knew the time was going to be tight to really be able to do much. It was a pretty good walk to the, not horrible, but it was a good walk to the French Quarter. So I did get down there and ate lunch the one afternoon, Sunday afternoon before the tournament. And then, it just too much craziness trying to get ready and make sure everything's in order. So I didn't even get to the casino. I'm not much of a gambler. I know some of the other people on the trip, in retrospect, now wish they hadn't had the opportunity to visit the casino. But yeah, it was a good time and a really good tournament. I think Penn State got a lot of really good experience from the trip for in particular the younger guys. And I think those matches will pay off when March rolls around.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was actually, this is funny that I was talking to my high school basketball coach today, and he was a smart, very, very smart man, and he knew how to get the most out of us. And he would take us to some of the hardest tournaments, and he would have us play. I mean, we were, a Philly Catholic League school, but we were going down in the Simon Gratz and playing Newman and playing Southern High. We're playing all these deep city schools in the preseason. And, me and 4 of the other guys on the team were all still in football shape. So we're playing in December, and we were talking about why he did that. And he goes, well, I just wanted to, honest to God, just to get away in the bonding. You know what I mean? Just being away with the guys for 3 or 4 days together does a lot for you guys, for a team.
No question. Yeah, and that was one of the neater things I thought with that trip is that they had the opportunity to take 20 of the kids. And as you said, that's a good bonding opportunity there for those guys to be around each other, and for some of the other younger kids that aren't in the starting lineup to just kind of get a feel for, okay, this is what preparation for big matches is like. And I just think it was all around just a very beneficial trip for Penn State. And now we launch right into the Big Ten season, and every year I know it's coming because I'm going to talk about how excited I am about the Big Ten schedule and how many different opportunities and situations I'm anxious and excited to see occur. And then I'm going to blink my eyes and it's going to be March and the season's going to be over.
That's usually how it works. I still can't believe it's Christmas and we're having 2023 next week.
I'm telling you, I'm right there with you.
This football season was just ridiculously fast. I couldn't believe how fast it went.
Yeah.
Usually they drag on a little bit. I mean, I guess it was a very good schedule when it comes to the tailgating and the partying type of thing. I mean, in my world, because, you have like 2 or 3 weeks in a row where they just hammer you down and you physically just get, you have people up every weekend. But we didn't have that like three game set at home this year. So it was a great season for that. For tailgating and forward football season, and I'm sure we're going to talk about how it's going to end in the next couple of days. But I mean, honest to God, I really can't believe that this season's over.
I'm with you. It, I don't know. My grandfather used to talk about when I was a kid. He's like, man, as you get older, time goes faster, and a year is what a week seemed to be as a kid. I always thought he was absolutely nuts. I'm like, what are you talking about? A day is a day, a week's a week, a year is a year. And well, now I know. Because, man, it does. It absolutely flies by. Each year it seems a little faster. So,
yeah, my father used to say, I wish it was like next Saturday right now. And he goes, hey, man, you got to quit wasting your, like wishing your life away.
Yes.
He goes, it'll get here. He goes, take your time. It'll get here.
Yeah. Yep, and the Rose Bowl is going to be here before we know it. It has been a fun bowl season to this point. I thought just a couple of really fun games yesterday and last night. That Oregon-North Carolina game was a fun watch. And I'll tell you, that Kansas game, I mean, if you're a Kansas fan, you have to be in agony over the excitement. I mean, that's when you have that type of good fortune and breaks and momentum going your way, you need to finish that thing off and win the doggone thing.
That was an unbelievable comeback, and everything had to happen did happen. I mean, Arkansas, they could have melted the game away but they, I don't know, they got a little greedy in my opinion, and then the guy fumbled and they scored. I turned the game off 3 different times to move over to the other game that was on. Yeah. And I remember sitting there watching it, and I was like, holy crap. And I'm seeing highlights on my phone, and I'm like, oh, geez, I got to get back to this. So, but how about we talk about how some referees have an attitude where they don't want to call plays late in the game.
Yeah.
But for that referee to call a targeting call in a double overtime on a 2-point play that they missed, it was the right call. I got to say, I will say that. But it took a lot of you-know-whats for him to throw that flag.
Yeah. Yep. No question.
But it's got to be heartbreaking for Kansas. I mean, to come back from that and then you still lose the game, man.
Real quick, Goon, I'm just curious your thoughts on the Eagles and whether you feel better or worse about their chances here in the postseason after the loss to the Cowboys with Hurts out of the lineup.
I'm okay. I mean, losing Lane Johnson's the one that really creeps me out. I mean, Hurts is going to go through. He's a mobile quarterback, so he's dealt with hits before. And I mean, why rush him back? Why put him back out there if he can somehow get hurt worse? I mean, you got 2 games left. You got to win one of those games, or the Vikings or 49ers need to lose one of the games. So, I mean, that's to get the bye week, which is huge because the bye week. I mean, I'm also a fan. I got to say this. I'm not a fan of, like, if you recall, like 15 years ago when Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James, Marvin Harrison, the tight end, I forget, Dallas Clark. Remember they sat them for like 3 weeks because they had completely run away with the division, and they went to the playoffs, and they were so rusty. So I think the bye week is great, but it does lead to a little bit of like a rustiness. So having those guys play the last week of the year, I'm okay with. I really am. The Lane Johnson injury sort of scares me because if it doesn't heal, they're going to have to replace him. But they do have the best offensive line coach in the league, so they do have a pretty good replacement out there for him as of right now. But Hurts, I'm okay with them sitting in this week, and if need be, if they by chance lose to the Saints this week, then I'm okay with. I mean, I would rather have him play next week and then take the bye week off.
Yeah, and after the Steelers were moved out of prime time a couple of weeks ago, and now they're moved into prime time for the matchup with the Ravens, and the possibility is still there of a playoff berth if the Steelers can beat a couple of division rivals and get some help from others along the way. But I will be curious, just interested to see how the Steelers finish this thing up. Less worried about whether or not they get in the playoffs. Maybe it'd be cool if they somehow get into the playoffs. They're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. And again, I think I at least am okay with that, with where they're at with the rebuilding process. But I do want to see if they can finish this thing up strongly this season, get a little momentum. I'm a little amazed at the number of pieces that say that this is, it's time for Tomlin to move on and this and that. I just, I don't know. This feels like one of those situations where, you're not going to appreciate what you have until it's gone. But man, I'm telling you, Tomlin is a good coach. I don't know exactly, I'm watching Belichick and some of the dumb things the Patriots have done. I'm not sure there's anybody right now that I'd be clamoring for in the league over Tomlin. And again, I think this team is playing better football as the season has gone along, which is the sign of a well-coached team. We'll see how this thing finishes up. But I think the prospects for the Steelers over the next couple of years is promising. I think you still I don't know right now whether Kenny Pickett is the long-term answer at quarterback, but I think you've seen enough good things out of him to warrant riding this thing through and seeing if he takes that next step forward next year. Because I think if he does, again, they've got to get other pieces in there. I mean, they're it's not one or two steps away from being a Super Bowl contender, but I don't think they're quite as far off as some in the Steelers fandom would have you believe, and many in the Steelers media would have you believe. I just, it's kind of like Penn State wrestling. I've done a couple of interviews this week, and people want to, and I understand why. I mean, everybody is. Why is 125 cursed for Penn State football? And people are, well, there's this weakness or that weakness, and the Steelers have to address all of these positions in order to be. I got news for you, kids. The Buffalo Bills are really good when healthy, but they don't have an all-pro at every position. The Kansas City Chiefs, you go right down the line, all of these teams, because of the roster limit that you have and the salary cap, you're not getting every position on the field to be top-notch. Right? Like you got to have a good quarterback. You've got to have a good offensive line. You've got to have some playmakers on defense. Probably at least one in the line and the linebacking core in the secondary to be a Super Bowl contender. But again, there isn't a team out there in today's pro football or today's college wrestling or today's college football where you're like, man, Alabama doesn't have a pro prospect at every position every year. It doesn't happen because of the scholarship limits and all of the other things that are in play. And I think sometimes it's just the expectation is a little unrealistic. And I don't, again, I don't think the Steelers are that far away.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a player or two, but you get the right 5 or 6 players next year, turnover, and Kenny Pickett takes that next step. Yeah, I think the Steelers could be in the mix as early as next year. I think more likely a couple of years down the road till they can build back. But count me as one of those not real enamored with the idea of getting rid of Tomlin and kind of starting this process over from scratch. I don't think Tomlin has
wins,
the locker room at all.
How many wins does he have right now? 6 or 7
on the season?
Yeah.
This year he has it's 7 right now, because if they win the last 2, they'll have another
to keep the non-losing record.
Yeah, they need to beat the Ravens and the Browns.
Who do they end up with?
What's that?
Who do they end up with?
The Browns next week and the Ravens Sunday night.
Okay. 2 bears of a game, but they can win both of theirs. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I guess I could compare it like some coaches can wear their welcome out in cities, and I'm gonna use this example. Andy Reid is by far the best coach in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind, none at all. But it was time for him to leave Philadelphia. I mean, he went to Kansas City right away and won. He won a Super Bowl there. Everybody was happy. I was happy. Booch was happy because it was just time was up with him in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I've always said that the players knew what they could get away with type of stuff, and they sort of ran all over him a little bit. I don't see that happening to Tomlin. I still don't see it. He still has control of the team to a certain extent. I mean, he definitely has had his hands full with some types of players.
Yeah.
But I mean, you say this about Franklin all the time. You tell me who's going to do better. And you're not going to tell me that someone's going to come in and replace Mike Tomlin and take the Steelers to where they're at when he had a rookie quarterback this year and might win 8 games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, and the same thing with Franklin. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not possible that somebody out there could do better quickly. I'm saying, who do you feel really confident about? And there is nobody. And I think it's much more likely that in both cases that you get a coach who is less of a coach than what you have currently, and produces less than what you have currently. And I just think when you have a really good known commodity, ride that baby. And again, I'm with you that with Reid and, it was time. I mean, it was in Philly. And I just read a column the other day that was comparing the Tomlin situation to Andy Reid in Philly. And I'm not seeing it because of just what you said. It's a new quarterback. I think that locker room is very much behind Tomlin and the organization. Now, might they need to make a change at offensive coordinator? Yeah, that I think is more debatable, and I'm okay having that discussion. And I get that Tomlin's the one in charge, but I guess my point is the track record is there. This team has largely been playing its best football in the second half of the season. And again, we'll see how it finishes out. But if this team gets 2 more wins, this team this year getting to a winning record is pretty remarkable. When you look at the injury situation that they've had and the number of young faces, and starting with Kenny Pickett obviously being the most significant there. I don't know. To me, that would be a truly remarkable accomplishment. And I really think, again, big if, but if this thing finishes up strongly for the Steelers, I could argue that this is the best job Mike Tomlin has done as his tenure yet as head coach in terms of production with the talent that they have and building toward the future. So I don't know. I don't think the Steelers, I don't think the organization is in any hurry to get rid of Tomlin, despite what the fans and some in the media.
It's not what they do anyway.
Are calling. No, and I just don't see any reason for it.
No. There's not going to be any rash decisions coming out of the Rooney faction, and never have been an issue. And again, I hate the Pittsburgh fans, aka you, But you really, really, really have to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, and you have to respect the hell out of it. And with Franco dying 2 weeks ago, you have really, really seen how much an organization, how classy an organization it has been and was and still is. That you just got to sit back and you got to marvel at it. It's very, very impressive. And the longevity they had. Three coaches since 1969. That's insane to think about.
It really is.
In this world, we always talk about that what the Patriots do in the free agent world right now, and how they've been successful in this type of world with with the way the teams are set up and the league is set up, that they've been so good for 20 years. Three coaches in a league that is now firing coaches 13 games into their season. Nathaniel Hackett, obviously he deserved to go, but I think he was way overmatched. But, that's a first-year head coach that got fired before the season ended. By the way, there's only three other ones, two you know. Do you know them? Who got fired in their first year.
Recently, you mean, or?
Well, we know all four. Well, they're all four. They're all still pretty prevalent in this world. One was our old nemesis, Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
And then we had, what's his name? The guy from the motorcycle guy from Louisville. What the hell's his name?
Oh, yeah.
He left the Falcons. And, God, I can't remember his name.
Bobby Petrino.
Petrino. And then Urban Meyer, Petrino, and Lou Holtz. He didn't last a year with the Jets.
Yeah.
By the way, I was like, wow, that jumped out at me because I was like, oh, well, he was an NFL coach. And now that I just saw that they did it, I couldn't believe he didn't make it through his first year. So, but three coaches since 1969. That's older. What year were you born?
69.
That's unbelievable. Your lifetime, you've had three NFL coaches for your team. That's just absolutely insane and awesome at the same time. You got to respect the hell out of that.
No, it is.
So people who are thinking that they might get rid of Tomlin because he doesn't. That's not going to happen.
No, and I don't think it should happen. I just don't. I really don't. I really don't.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, I just. Again, we'll see how this thing finishes up. But if they get these final two wins, again, it's still possible they could end up in the playoffs. Again, there'll be a short stay if they get there. But boy, I'm telling you, if this team this year gets into the playoffs, Tomlin ought to be up for Coach of the Year rather than
TJ Watt. I don't agree with him being in the Pro Bowl this year. He's only ended up playing 9 games when everything's said and done. But when the voting went out, he only played in 7 games. So I don't agree with him going to the Pro Bowl, but that dude means a lot to that team. I mean, a lot. When he's there and he's not there, it's a completely different team. Yeah. It's impressive from that position.
Yep. No, difference maker for sure. Let's talk about the Rose Bowl, dear Goon, and the matchup here. I do think this is a really intriguing game in a lot of different ways. I guess I'll just start with kind of what you're expecting from Penn State in this thing, and what are some of the keys that you see heading into this matchup.
Yeah, we've been saying this for a few weeks now about how much our team wants to be there. They really, truly, truly do. They want to play in the Rose Bowl. I think they want to win the Rose Bowl. we've only got one win of 4 games we've played out there in the history of Penn State. So we need to get that W just for that, for God's sakes.
Yep.
Team-wise, I really think that this team they're all in. They really are. It is a very well-led team. I think that this is an important game to them. Now, it's also in the same breath a huge important game to Utah, because I think the Utah losing last year left them a little bad taste in their mouth. And that was a hell of a game they played last year against Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to come back down there and not really, fall for the lights and the camera and the flashes and all that of LA, and then being in a Rose Bowl, where I think that we may fall into that a little early, and being maybe maybe a little slow out of the gates. But I think that our leadership of this team and our coaching staff, I think that in the long run, we're going to win this game. And I think we're going to win this game pretty good.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what the approach is for Penn State, in particular offensively. Utah is a really interesting team to me. I just think there's a lot of things that, I mean, obviously Rising is a terrific quarterback and rightfully gets a whole lot of attention, but that Utah offensive line is special. Rising has a lot of time, very consistently. He's been sacked very few times over the last 2 seasons. And their running game really is, I think, what separates Utah in the Pac-12. Their ability to run consistently and get 200 yards plus in a game allows them to control games in ways that very few, if any, in the Pac-12 have been able to do in recent seasons. And I think that's one of the more interesting things is, while Sean Clifford, I think, is, obviously a veteran presence and kind of the heart and soul of that offense, both of these teams are predicated on being able to run the ball effectively. And I really think it's going to come down to the other thing that's interesting is the turnovers. Both these teams are outstanding at taking care of the ball offensively and creating opportunities for themselves defensively. Both these teams have a huge plus number when it comes to turnover margin. So I think turnovers and the run game, to me, are the 2 keys. And statistically, there's no way you can pick between these 2 teams going in. That they both have done a really good job on both of those fronts all season long.
Yeah, I mean, USC had pressure on the quarterback early in the game, but then when they got control of that USC defensive line and defensive front, it was ugly. Yeah, it was an ugly second half for USC. I mean, think about that. We're playing a Big Ten team, in my opinion. We really are. I mean, that's not a prototypical Pac-12 team that's going to be lining up from Utah. And they're the new kids on the block in the Pac-12. So respect the hell out of their game, respect the hell out of their coaching staff for sure. And it's just going to come down to who really wants it more, and because it's not going to be a pretty game. It's going to be a slugfest. I mean, there's going to be a big fight on Monday. That's how I feel about it. It's going to be who's going to be tougher in the trenches. You say they have a good offensive line. Well, you know what? They got to block our D line, so they better step up. I mean, if that team that showed up against Michigan shows up and Utah tries to come out and did what Michigan did to us, we better be able to withstand that and take control of that. And our offense needs to help our defensive out. And, again, don't turn the ball over, but be able to run the ball on a consistent basis, to keep our defensive line and defensive front fresh.
Well, or get the short passing game going and get Sean Clifford in a rhythm or a combination thereof. I really think Penn State has an opportunity, Goon, to use the passing game to set up the run game in this particular matchup. I think Utah comes out with the idea that it needs to stop the run. And I think with Parker Washington out and with the tight ends that Penn State has, and if I'm coaching this game, and for many, many reasons, we should be very thankful that I'm not. But if I'm coaching this game, I'm coming out and really trying to get the short passing game going early and use that to set up hopefully some deep throws later and the run game. But I think getting the tight ends and just short, crossing routes to the receivers, swing passes to the running backs, I think that's still an area where this offense can grow too, is getting Allen and Singleton more involved in the passing game as outlets. But I think if Penn State can come out and do that, get Sean Clifford in a rhythm with just short little passes early that freezes that defensive line of Utah momentarily. Because that's the other thing. Both these teams have been really good against the run, especially down the stretch this season.
Yeah.
So, I'm really excited for this matchup. I just think there's a lot of intriguing things to keep an eye on and to watch as this thing unfolds. And I think it should be a really entertaining game. I think the potential is there certainly for a pretty high scoring affair. I think there's a pretty good chance that the losing team in this thing gets to the 30s on Monday.
I mean, that's the same game that Ohio State played with them last year. I mean, that was the big coming out party for Ohio State last year.
Yep.
That quick strike offense that we saw all this year. And I mean, let's not, this means a lot to James Franklin. I mean, he can't go in to lose another bowl game, another big game. We do not have that marquee victory. I mean, everybody can sit there and say, well, our 2 losses were against the two of the 4 playoff teams. Okay, great. I understand that. But still, the other 10 games you played weren't against great opponents. You don't have a marquee type victory. I mean, and this is that marquee type victory. And, historically, the way a bowl game works is that, this is all about momentum going into next season. It really, really is. And this is how you kick a great season off, is winning this game next week, getting this out of the way, and then you go into spring practice. You feel great about yourself. You feel great about the team, and you go into camp next year, and you're ready to rock and roll and make a run.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see with the Penn State really just has Washington and Porter out, Parker Washington and Joey Porter out for this game. And when you think about Thomas at running back for them and Kincaid and then Clark Phillips. It's interesting that both of them have probably first-round draft picks at cornerback that'll be out for the game. But I think Penn State has better depth in its cornerback room and secondary than Utah. So I think while Porter is a loss, and I'm not going to say that that's not. I think Penn State's better equipped to handle Porter being out than Utah is Phillips being out. Even with Parker Washington being out for Penn State. And listen, Thomas and Kincaid accounted for a whole lot of yards offensively. Now, I think, to be fair, I think Thomas is a good running back. I think that offensive line deserves a ton of credit for the numbers that have been put up there. And I don't think the running game is going to be all that hampered by Utah by Thomas's absence. I don't think that's going to be key component. I think if Penn State shuts down the run, it's going to be because Penn State's defensive line did a really good job matching up against a really good offensive line for Utah. But I don't think that's as significant. Now, how the passing game flows, I think, is going to be interesting for Rising without kind of his go-to guy at tight end. And, I think it's not that I think they're devoid of talent without him. I just think he was such a key component and the guy that they looked to if, Rising was in trouble or needed to get the ball out quickly. That's the guy he knew he could go to and count on. And without that there, if Penn State is able to get some pressure, does that rattle Rising a little bit, or does he feel comfortable with being able to go somewhere else? And that's the other thing that I think is fascinating to me, at least, Goon, is what does Penn State do defensively here? What does Manny Diaz dial up on the defensive side to try to create opportunities for Penn State and confusion for Rising, who has been absolutely sensational at quarterback for them?
Now, we got to put pressure on the outside, stay in your lanes, don't let them run around. It's a timing passing game that they have type of thing. So we could knock the receivers around a little bit, slow him off the ball, and then get pressure from the inside, but outside to make him step up in the pocket. But our guys got to stay in their lanes pass rush wise. And it starts with him, is getting him off of his game. And then I think that their whole team will follow. Again, I have a very good feeling about this game. I like our matchups with them. I mean, our defensive line has really got to play their best game of the year. They got to put pressure on him, and it seems to be one of those things that Manny can dial up a lot of pressure. Now, he doesn't have a lockdown corner, a.k.a. Joey Porter, out there playing man-to-man with somebody and knocking their best receiver, but their best receiver is not going to play. So, who advantage who? So if we can protect our quarterback and get to theirs is the key to the game for me. I know we're going to be able to run the ball. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that because that could be that could be a bad sign for me if I say that I know we can run the ball. But I feel as if we can run the ball. Now the question is, can we pass the ball on them? It is a great track. It is a fast track. So you're going to see a lot of fast guys out there and a lot of high scoring. In my opinion, in this game.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of scoring opportunities. You need to be able to cash in, and I think if you're Penn State, you need to finish off drives. Field goals are not necessarily going to be your friend in this Rose Bowl. I think more often than not, if you get into that red zone, you got to be able to cash in and take advantage of the opportunity that presents itself. But I do think, Goon, that this game, as you said earlier, I think Penn State is going to be dialed in and fired up for this game. The more I've been thinking about it, earlier in the week, I was kind of like, I don't know if Utah will, but I think you're right. I think because of the loss to Ohio State last year, and I think Utah feels like it is carrying the Pac-12 banner in a big way, right? With the departure of USC and UCLA to the Big Ten. I mean, I do think that there is – I think both these teams are going to come in fired up and excited to play. Earlier in the week, I was kind of saying I don't know. Utah could, but they could go either way to me with Utah. The more I've thought about that, the more I think I'm wrong. I think both these teams, which again I think should be fun, right? Like, because I don't think that's the case with all of these bowl games where you have both teams that are all in and fired up to be there. I do think that is going to be the case here. I think Utah wants to get a win desperately in this game and prove that it is, one of the big boys on the block. I mean, Kyle Whittingham.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just took down the big boy on the block, and that big boy is going to our conference after next season. I think that Utah was flexing their muscles a little bit, saying, okay, well, we're going to, you just said it, they're going to carry the flag, carry the banner for the Pac-12. Well, we're not good enough to join the Pac or the Big Ten, I guess, type of thing. They're going to have that chip on their shoulder for sure. And our guys got to be ready for it. I mean, you can't worry about – it's a pretty cool environment. I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I mean, it's a really cool environment. You're out there. Like I told you a month ago, I said it's still the Rose Bowl. I mean, it could be 2 0-10 teams playing, but it's still the freaking Rose Bowl. And that means a lot to our guys, and that's why I was so happy when I was talking to those guys about it. But again, Utah did it last year. This might be a ho-hum for them. Like, okay, well, let's just continue up where we ended last year against Ohio State. And we better be prepared for that. We better not get caught up in the whole, oh, my God, the B-2 stealth bombers going over top and the national anthem and this and that. I mean, I know for sure. I mean, you've heard me tell the story 1,000 times. I mean, our first play of the game, when Kijana went 83 yards, none of us blocked the right people. I mean, there's definitely nerves going into it. There's 1,000,000% there's nerves. I mean, here we are, probably the greatest offense in at least the Big Ten history. We scored an 83-yard touchdown, and none of us blocked the right people because we were all sort of like, we hadn't played in a month, and it was just like it snuck up, and then they're jumping around, and we didn't adapt, and we got lucky. So again, we better be prepared for them to come out lights like on fire. So we can't get caught up in all that and all the emotion of that playing in the Rose Bowl. I think our guys got to be ready to go. And I think that James has a feel for that. I really do. I think that's one of James's greatest characteristics. He has his guys ready and in the moment.
We should hope for such a mix-up to start this.
Absolutely.
Dear Goon.
Oh, man, it was great. I saw a highlight today. I saw the highlight when I got on the Sports Illustrated cover when I blocked nobody, and I walked into the end zone, and I'm hugging the running back, and he led me into the end zone. It was beautiful. Perfect day, man. Perfect day.
One of the things too, Goon, I think that's just going to be fun to watch as the game unfolds is how some of these younger guys for Penn State perform and what they are able to show over the course of the 4 quarters. Because listen, there's no question. I mean, this is an opportunity to finish up this season strongly, send the seniors out with a big W and all of that. But make no mistake, the hope is, right, that you're going to help set the tone for next season and use this game as the first step toward bigger and better things next season.
We're not the only people saying that, Jeffrey. I mean, I saw that Juice Scruggs had an interview this week, and he was saying he's passing up his last year, his COVID year, whatever the hell they're having. But
yeah,
he's declaring for the NFL draft. But he said that he truly, truly believes that this team is ready to take the next step to go to the college football playoff next year. And again, I mean, I have been saying this for a while now. This team reminds me of our '93 team. It really does. And I know you hate hearing the same story, but I got to reiterate. I mean, our '92 team was so good, but then they were older guys and they were more worried about their NFL careers. And they had more talent than the '94 team, and we lose 5 games that year. So we go into '93, we weren't even remotely close to being as talented as that '92 team. And we go 9-3, or 10-2, excuse me. We lost to Ohio State, we lost to Michigan in our first year in the Big Ten. But we had great leaders, and they taught us how to lead, and we were all just young puppies at that point. And then the time '94 came around, we were so well led from our seniors from the '93 team, like a guy like Mike Malinowski, Lou Benfatti, Tioka Jackson, Derek Pickett, Lee Rubin. These were great guys and great leaders who handed it down. And I look at our team currently, and they're so well led that James doesn't have to get involved with this team. They are senior led and they're player led, and I think that the similarities between the two are fantastic. And the way we ended the '93 season was going down to, I believe it was the Citrus Bowl, and we kicked the living crap out of Tennessee and Heath Schuler. I mean, and that just it kickstarts your next year like you would not believe. There's nothing worse in college football than having a losing bowl game, going home and then starting winter workouts. You still have that feel of a loss in your rear view mirror, and you want to get back to work, but it's like, ugh. But if you come off of a win, the coaches are happy, the secretaries are happy, everybody, the people serving you the food are happy. You get extra servings and stuff like that. I mean, the people downtown at the bar, they're freer with the beer. But I mean, this is an important game for James. I think that he realizes that. And like I said, he does know how to feel the moment. And I think that this is the next step for him, and that this is the launching point towards a playoff run next year.
Real quick, Goon, with both Scruggs and Brenton Strange, who announced that they're going to forego their final year of eligibility and go to the NFL. I'm not faulting either, and I think Scruggs is kind of understandable given the what he's been through, and probably he's looking at the risk reward thing a little more through that lens. But I really thought both of those guys had an opportunity to substantially improve their stock status with a good season next year, to say nothing of having the opportunity, I think, to at least play on a team that should be in contention anyway for a playoff berth and a national title. I'm not necessarily surprised by either, but I really think both would have benefited from coming back. Of course, they would benefit if they came back and had productive seasons and stayed healthy, and that's obviously, I think, in the back of both of their minds, as it is with anybody weighing that decision right now.
Yeah. I'll go back to my personal experience, and I was here 4.5 years. I redshirted and played the 5 seasons and stuff like that. You can probably speak of the wrestlers. You're just done.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are going to go on. There would be a 6th year for both of them, correct?
Correct.
You know, it's I mean,
yeah, for Scruggs for sure.
Yeah, Juice is definitely going to be it would be a COVID extra year.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion is I think that they're just done. And, you know, if the difference in, you know, a third round pick, if you can improve yourself into a first round pick, I can see where you're going to stay.
Right.
But if you're a third round pick who's going to stay third, possibly 2, work your way up to 2, it's time. You know, my personal opinion. And that, well, you know, you get tired of, you know, I mean, football coaches are maniacs. I mean, I had the little Italian guy from Brooklyn yelling at us, and, you know, and then there's James yelling at his, you know, the Philadelphia guy yelling at all his guys. I mean, they're control freaks, but they have to be control freaks. But, you know, you're told when to be where, what time, all the time. And it's time, it just wears thin. And that's where I was after my 4th and 5th year. Now, I wanted to bring this up, and I'm going to ask you. I respect the living hell out of those guys because they are going to leave, but they're going to play.
Yep.
And that's my other thing is I'm interested to see if Joey Porter, who, you know, is not hurt, right? Because he did play in the last – is he going to be on the sideline? And I've noticed that – I watched the Minnesota game, and their All-American center is not playing in the game, but he's there on the sidelines in shorts and his jersey. And I'm like, why are you there? I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, if you're leaving to go to the NFL or you're going to be in the transfer portal, why are you playing with us? Why are you with us? So I did see the other night Coastal Carolina's quarterback who was entered into the transfer portal because they're bringing their new staff in. I understand it's a different offense, but he played the game, but he's in the transfer portal. And I was like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, that one seems more odd to me. I'm more okay with Porter or anybody that's entering the NFL draft being at the game, and especially if they're, you know, still dialed in terms of, hey, I'm gonna, you know, help these guys. I can bring
if they're helping out, if they're out there coaching like a Sean Lee when he was out hurt, I completely get it. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Now if they're just out there partying, having a good time. I mean, come on. I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere. And I don't think James puts up with that. But it is – I did see – that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that Strange and Scruggs have declared, but they're both going to play in the game. And there in itself is it's telling you these guys want to win this game.
Yeah, entering the transfer portal and then playing is –
weird, right?
That is just odd. I don't even know necessarily that it's wrong or anything. It just that is strange because you're basically saying I don't want to be here, but since I'm here, I'll go ahead and play this game.
I'm going to try out for other teams tonight. You know, I just didn't understand. I mean, I know a new staff is coming in, and it might be a whole completely different offense that he's used to or whatnot. But you're still playing with your team and your guys this year.
Yeah,
enter the transfer portal next week after the game.
That's and what would be the that just
what's the harm?
I'm with you. That seems really strange. Hey, one of the things I wanted to touch on too, I think part of the reason that this game or this matchup is so fun, and I've been thinking about this, and Kyle Whittingham has done a fantastic job with that Utah program, but since James Franklin has been head coach at Penn State, if you look at Penn State and Utah, pretty similar. I mean, especially if you take the last 2 seasons out for Penn State, pretty similar in terms of consistency, production, and really, I think and we've talked about this with Penn State, but I think Utah is right there. That after you get past what we'll call the elite, to go back to the tired cliche at this point with James Franklin, but once you get past those top 5 or 6 teams, right? Since Franklin's been here, you would throw at the top Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State for sure. Then probably Georgia, Oklahoma, and maybe LSU would be debatable as another team in there. And then, then it's that next tier, I think, would be led by Penn State and Utah. Right? In this recent era. I mean, I think those 2 schools are the 2 that are admittedly not the teams that are consistently in the playoffs, but they are probably the next two teams that have been most consistently knocking on the door of being a playoff team and have been playoff contenders anyway, as often as any of the teams that have not been there consistently. And I think that's just intriguing to see, which of these teams is able to rise to the occasion against a program that's in a very similar circumstance right now.
Yep. And I'm not going to say this is something that James has thought about, but I mean, there's I believe only two coaches who've won the top 5 bowl games, and that would be the Rose, the Sugar, the Orange, Cotton, and Fiesta.
Yeah.
Joe was the first, and then Bob Stoops. And I can't think of I don't know if Nick Saban has won a Cotton Bowl, to be honest with you. But if James wins the Rose Bowl, that's 3 out of 5 right there. That's pretty damn good. I mean, again, this is all geared towards next year. 100%. I think that this team wants to give this as a nice going away gift to their senior class as go out Rose Bowl champions.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I'm not going to say the word cliche, but I mean, everybody getting rings all the time now, wearing all these things and this and that. But if your ring says Big Ten champions, I get it. It's a great one. But, if it says Orange Bowl champions or Fiesta Bowl champions, it doesn't. But if it says Rose Bowl champions, it means a whole bunch, man. It really, truly, truly does. I mean, I don't know what's the equivalent in wrestling. What's the big individual wrestling match that they used to have the last few years? The Southern Shuffle, was that one of the big things? Winning that?
Southern Scuffle and Midlands historically would be would be right there.
Yeah, so you want to have that on you. I mean, it's nice to have put that on your belt, take that notch off put a notch on your belt. So huge game for the guys, huge game for James. I think again, James is in the moment, and I think that he's going to let these kids do what they're going to do, and I'm very comfortable with what we're going to do out there. I really am.
Yeah, what makes this game fun to me is the fact that you are getting an opportunity to play against a team the caliber of Utah and a program now the caliber of Utah and a coach like Kyle Whittingham. I mean, a win here is meaningful, not just because it's the Rose Bowl, but because of the opposition and what they've been able to accomplish, over the last couple of decades, really, but especially over the last 5 or 6 seasons and this year. And as we've talked about, Goon, it just is that, to me, it would be that signature win. I mean, the win over Purdue, I guess, now looks good. But, I mean, this would be a marquee victory. And I think it lets you get that under your belt. You took care of business against the teams that were supposed to down the stretch. And I just think, I probably talk too much about momentum, but I do think it's a big deal in sports. And I think this team is riding a wave of momentum with the way it played down the stretch. And I was on another podcast earlier this week, and we were talking about it. It's like it was inferior competition, no question, after the Ohio State game. But Penn State consistently went out and did what you're supposed to do against inferior competition, and that to me is
who they put in front of you. That's it. You can only beat who they're going to put in front of you,
right? But it wasn't just that they won; it's the way they went about it.
Yeah, like we were talking when they were doing. Remember the early bowl predictions, and they were saying Cotton Bowl versus Tulane or one of the UCF schools, and we were like, "Nah, I'm not. It doesn't do it for me. You need that marquee name. Utah is not a blue blood. There's no way, shape, or form you can say that, but they are damn good in the last 20 years. They will rack up. They will match up against a lot of teams in this country and be a top 10 team, like you just said. It was a great call you made.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, that is a program that could probably transfer very easily and well into the Big Ten, because it is their offensive line is good. Now their defensive line is. If there's a weakness on that football team, it's probably its defensive line, which again is why I think Penn State needs to take advantage, and especially early in the game, set the tone, get Sean Clifford in a rhythm, and get that running game going, so that you can kind of control the pace of the game and kind of the flow of the game, is at least what you're hoping to do if you're Penn State going into this thing.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, that's the mark. That's the game. Can we stop their D line, and then can we control their defense? I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to come down to the 7-on-7 players. Hell no, it comes down to the beef, man. Can we control them, and can we get to their quarterback? I mean, that's the key to the game. It's the key to any game, in my opinion. But really, this game especially, our offensive line plays well. We'll be all right.
And before we wrap up, Goon, just quick thoughts on the national semifinals and the playoff matchups there.
I'm going to go big on big for the national title game. I predicted a couple upsets there. I really have. I think that Ohio State really matches up well with Georgia, and I think that Georgia, they might be looking at last year a little bit too much, to be honest with you. I don't think that TCU could handle Michigan if Michigan goes out there and plays with Michigan. If they do what Michigan is capable of doing. So I have in my bold pick, I might have them, a Big Ten title. Georgia and TCU both lose.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, which is scary, and I'm sorry to do that to you because that's not good news for your.
I'm going to call my bookie real quick here.
Yeah,
I'm going to change all my bets now. Damn it!
But listen, I do think that Ohio State. And listen, all four of those teams are motivated. I mean, you're 2 wins away from a national title. So it's not that I think anybody's going to go in there and lay down or not take this thing seriously. But I think Ohio State is a better team than when it showed against Michigan. I think it knows it. And I agree with you. I think they match up well with Georgia. And I'm really curious to see how that game unfolds, but I'm with you. I'm kind of expecting Ohio State to pull out a close one there, but I think it'll surprise a lot of people. And Michigan TCU, I keep going back and forth because I do think TCU they've been underrated, and all season long people are like, well, it's eventually going to catch up to them, and it just never does. But at the end of the day, Michigan is so good along those lines, both the offensive and defensive line. And as you said, that's big time football is usually decided there. And unless there's something crazy that happens with the turnovers, and you never know for sure going into a game. But to me, TCU is going to have to be +2 or better to win that game, to have a real chance at winning it. So I'm kind of with you. I think it'll be a good game, but I think it'll be a game. I don't think it's going to be a nail biter at the end. I think Michigan, I'm not expecting it to be a blowout, but I think Michigan's going to have like a 10 to 14 point lead and just be controlling it in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. The only thing that scares me is Michigan losing I forget his name, but the tailback is out, and he is an absolute. He was losing him, and him being out for this game scares me because if someone else has got to step up for them. They have the horses to be able to do it, but I don't think they can do it as well as he can. So they have to play a pretty good game to beat, because TCU is going to be game. They're going to fight. I mean, they're a bunch of tough kids, Texas kids. Who this means a lot to them. So Michigan better be ready to go. I mean, they can't go into this game like they did the last year against Georgia and just they were horrible in that playoff game last year. I think they acted a little bit different this year after beating Ohio State. Like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do, and go from there. So, we'll see. I mean, they're going to be fantastic games in my opinion. It's going to be a great next 3 or 4 days. Really, really going to be a good time to watch these games.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of other, I think, really fun games coming up that should be entertaining. Again, you never know for sure how things are going to unfold. But, boy, some of the matchups, I think, at least on paper, do get you excited, and it'll be fun to see how everything unfolds.
In show news, Ironhead, we got our man Alan walking down the aisle this weekend.
Congrats
to Mr. Allen. Good luck with the nuptials and the marriage, and you joined the team now, man.
Yes, indeed.
Good luck to you, Alan.
Congratulations, indeed. Hope everybody enjoys the weekend, enjoys all of the football. And we will be back on Tuesday to break it all down for you as we have another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Will be at Quaker Steak and Lube, our normal home again on Tuesday. Until then, be good and be safe.
Make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.